Hello everyone, welcome to day 7. We're going to be talking about the function and the graphs again. So consider this part 2 or a continuation of our lesson from yesterday. All right, our goals for today, we're going to review how to go from a table to a graph. We talked about that a little bit last week, but I wanted to hit it again. Being able to switch between the different representations, being the equation, the table, and the graph, is a very valuable skill. All right, so I'm going to constantly review those. We also want to understand how to find an output given an input using a graph, and understand how to find an input given an output using a graph. So we want to be able to go forwards and backwards through a function using the equation, the table, and the graph. And today we're going to focus on the graph. All right. So let's take a look at our review here. So we're going to review how to take a table of ordered pairs and create a graph from that table. So I've got a table here that was generated by a function rule, and I'll even tell you what that rule is. This particular rule is f of x equals x squared. All right, so in other words, these numbers over here in the left-hand column, I squared them to get the number in the right-hand column. So I put a -2 in, and the machine, right, our function squares it and turns it into a 4. Right, so input, output, and we do that for each one. And that's how this table was generated, right? So -1 squared is 1, 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4. Now I want to take these points and I want to plot them on the graph so I can see what kind of a shape or pattern I am dealing with here. So I'm going to start with this first one. So notice that the x value is -2 and the y value is 4. So as an ordered pair, this would be -2 comma 4. Right? So I can come over here and I can go left 2, right, to where -2 is on the x-axis, and then up to 4, which is located right here. So I'm going to plot that point. This next one is at -1 comma 1. Right, so we're going to go, here's the origin, we're going to start there and we're going to go left 1 and then up 1 because we wanted -1 and then +1. Right, x comma y. All right, this next one's at 0, 0. That's an easy one, that's right here. Then the next one is at 1, 1, so I'm going to go right 1, up 1. There we go. And then the next one is at 2, 4. So I'm going to go right 2, up 4. And you start to see our shape here, right? And this particular shape is called a parabola. And I'm going to try and draw my parabola through these points. There we go. That's not too bad. Not too bad with a digital pen that I've never used before. There we go. And there's our shape, right? So we went from a rule to a table to a graph, all right? And we see how those three things are kind of linked together, all right? All right, so let's take a look. We're actually going to be focusing on graphs that look just like that. We're going to be focusing on graphs that have parabolas today. So we're going to see situations in these types of graphs where there could be more than one answer when we're looking for an input. So recall those situations where I might give you an output and I say, hey, go back and find the input. So we want to go backwards through the function. And it turns out that there are certain situations where you could actually have more than one solution. All right, so let's try it with this graph and let's see what happens here. So in this first one, they want to know what f of 3 is. So that means they're giving me an input of 3. They want to know what the output is. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to my graph. I'm going to go to x equals 3. There's 3, and then I got to go to wherever my function is at 3. So I'm going to go up. Right here is where I hit the graph. Okay, so this has an input of 3, and then I look at the corresponding output on the y-axis, and that is a 6. So when I put a 3 in, I get a 6 out. So I know f of 3 equals 6. Now in this second one it says find x when f of x equals -4. Well, this -4 is not an input, right? They didn't give me the number here in the parentheses. They gave me an output. All right, so I'm going to go to my graph and I'm going to go on the y scale. I'm going to go find y is -4, and that's right here. And then I got to go left or right to wherever the function is. So I could go to the right and I see a point right here with a corresponding input of 1. So x could equal 1, right? If I put a 1 in, I get that negative 4 out. But there's another option here, because if I go to the left, there's another point right here that could also produce a negative 4, and that is at negative 2. So the answer here could be 1 or negative 2. It could be either one of those numbers. If I put those inputs into my function, I will get that output of negative 4. All right, so let's try it again. Let me erase some of this stuff that's on my graph here. And we're going to try it again. So this time it says find x when f of x equals 6. Right, so this is an output. Again, they want to know what input or inputs, right? There could be more than one that would produce a 6. So I'm going to go to my graph. I'm going to go to where y is 6, and then I could go either left or right. So if I go to the right, I'm over here, and the corresponding input is at 3. So x could equal 3. But if I go to the left, over here, right? So if I go to the left over here and I go down to the corresponding x value, it could be negative 4. So either one of those numbers would be an acceptable answer. And when we get to the test on Friday, you're going to want to make sure that you list both if you want to get full credit. Okay, getting one is good, getting both is excellent. All right, so you want to make sure you get both. All right, last problem here. We're going to try it one more time. Okay, so I got my parabola over here. It says find f of 2. So the number is in the parentheses here, so they're giving me an input. So I'm going to go to my graph. I'm going to find 2 on the x-axis, and I'm going to go up to right here. That's where my function is at x equals 2, and the corresponding y value is 1. All right, and then we go here. This one says find x when f of x equals negative 3. So this negative 3 is an output. So that means I'm going to go to my y scale. I'm going to go to negative 3. And there's actually a point right there. So x could be 0. So when x is 0, I get a negative 3. But I have another one over here. And that point corresponds to 4. So it could be 0 or 4 that could produce a negative 3. All right, one more. All right, so we have another one. This one is giving us an output again. And this time the output is negative 8. So I'm going to my graph. I'm going to go down to where y is negative 8. And let's go left first. So we have a point right here. And that corresponds to an x value of negative 1. There's my negative 1. And I could go to the right. So there's a point right there that has an output of negative 8, and its corresponding input would be 5. And there's my 2 solutions for that one. All right, guys, that's it for today's lesson. Have a great day.